I'm going to make a prediction. If Wednesday Obama has won the election, the biggest day of gun sales in the history of the world will be that day. There will be more ammunition and more guns sold in the United States than any place at any time in the history of the planet next Wednesday. And maybe make another prediction. If Obama wins, you are going to be very angry that you didn't buy your gun in advance because they're going to be hard to get and ammunition will be hard to get because there will be a run on ammunition. Maybe I'm crazy, but I don't think anybody who is an NRA member has any doubt on how much of a friend President Obama is to guns, and everybody will want to be grandfathered in. David Keene, he's the president of the NRA. He's with us. How are you, sir?
Just fine, Glenn. Glad to be with you.
You agree with the prediction that I just made?
I sure do. You know, right after his election in 2008, because of his history and because of what he said during that campaign and because of what he said right after the election about wanting to reimpose the Clinton gun ban and tax ammunition and the like, gun sales went way up because people were fearful that he was going to go after their guns. And the same thing's going to happen now because even though for the last year and a half, like most liberal politicians, he's tried to downplay his position on the Second Amendment, during that town hall debate, he got a question, as you remember. And I don't think he expected it, but he came out of the closet, and it was as if he said, okay, regardless of what I've said about supporting the Second Amendment, I don't. I'd like to reimpose the Clinton gun ban. I'd like to go after sidearms, and when I get reelected, I'm going to do it.
You know, there's
gun owners and everybody that believes in the Second Amendment who saw that debate knows that this is the same guy who campaigned against guns last time, who was an anti-Second Amendment activist back in Chicago long before he ever thought of running for public office, and that if he gets an opportunity, he's going to go after the Second Amendment.
Let me ask you this. Why is it so close in Colorado with so many gun owners in Colorado? There's no ifs, ands, and buts on the friendliness to guns with Barack Obama, and anybody who says, hey, transmit this to Vladimir, I'm going to have a little more flexibility after the next election. That's a little frightening.
The same thing essentially to Sarah Brady of handgun control. He told her, right now I have to operate under the radar, but I'm going to deliver for you. That's essentially the same thing he told the president of Russia. Let me get past this election and then watch my dust.
Where's Mitt Romney on guns?
He's committed to the Second Amendment. You saw that in the town hall debate. When Barack Obama said, I want a whole bunch of new gun control laws, Mitt Romney came right back and said, we don't need any new laws. We need to prosecute criminals. We need to support the Second Amendment. Not only that, but he's got on his ticket Paul Ryan, who, you know, I thought about this the other day. I'm a Wisconsin boy, and I grew up about 15 miles from Paul, and I've known him for a long time, and he's probably the most genuine outdoorsman nominated for either office on either ticket since the days of Teddy Roosevelt. I mean, this is a ticket that'll be good on the Second Amendment, and I think will be very good in terms of expanding the outdoor opportunities and the hunting opportunities and sporting opportunities for the American people. So I think there's absolutely no choice for anybody who's interested in the shooting sports, for anybody who supports the Second Amendment, or for anybody who's interested in being active in the outdoors. Yeah,
I know. I mean, I know everybody makes the, outdoor and the hunter, claim, but that's not why the founders put that in there.
No, it is not. It's not the reason.
Yeah.
That was put in there, as George Washington said at the time, a free people ought to be armed. And, Glenn, whenever I think about it, I think about a banquet that took place in Moscow a few years ago honoring General Kalashnikov, who during World War II had invented the AK-47. And it was on the occasion of his 85th birthday. Mr. Putin got up to toast the general. He's one of Russia's few heroes. And when he finished the toast, General Kalashnikov got up, looked him in the eye, and said, Mr. President, my dream is of a country like the United States, governed by men and women not afraid of an armed citizenry. Think about that. Most people in this world can only dream about the kind of country in which we've lived since the founding. And it's that that distinguishes us from the rest of the world.
Well, we're sitting here now. We're looking at Department of Homeland Security and everything else, and we just take it at the airport. We just take it. When they come to our houses, you're like, well, what am I going to do? Because they've lost their fear of the American people. And the more you regulate guns, the more the first thing that happens is what's happening now. We disconnect from the Constitution. We don't know our rights. We don't stand up for our rights. We don't even talk about our rights. We talk more about our rights than our responsibilities, and we've lost the founders' understanding of the Constitution. But the other thing is carrying a gun. Having a gun makes the government fearful of its citizens, as it should be.
Well, that's what the battle about the Second Amendment is really about, Glenn. It's not about crime. If it were about crime, then the folks who are anti-gun would look at the empirical evidence of, for example, the fact that in every jurisdiction that has allowed concealed carry, violent crime has dropped.
Well,
they would realize that in those jurisdictions where guns are restricted, what they've done is they've disarmed victims and allowed predators free reign, Chicago being a great example. But it's not about guns. It's not about crime. It's about the values that the Second Amendment and an armed citizenry represent to a government that does not believe people should have the freedom to make their own decisions. That's what it's about.
We have a real split in America. I mean, it's amazing how half of America is going one way, or I'd say even a third of America is going one way. And, the remaining part of America is going the other way. Today in Oklahoma, I think it's today, you can now carry it openly. Now it's not concealed carry anymore. You can wear it on your hip in Oklahoma.
Well, there are a number of states where that's legal. But 49 states allow concealed carry of one form or another. Barack Obama has said in the past that he favors a federal law that would ban concealed carry in all 50 states, including the 49 that now have it. I don't know about the other 7 that he has in his mind.
Wait, so you mean that he's for the holster?
No, he's not for the guns. He doesn't.
Because I'm okay with that too.
This is a guy who has said in the past, Glenn, that he doesn't think any American citizen has the right to privately own a firearm. He's supported legislation that would ban the possession, sale, and manufacture of handguns in the United States. This is a guy who has been committed to stripping Americans of their gun rights throughout his entire professional and political career.
But he is smart enough to know that he's never going to get around, and this is what people say, he'll never get around the Second Amendment. Yes, he will, by doing things like supporting the 500% increase on the tax on ammunition and gun sales.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of people don't realize that all of this is of a piece. If you increase the taxes on ammunition 500%, 1,000%, whatever, you're making it more and more difficult for average Americans to own firearms and use them, to be involved in the shooting sports, to defend themselves. You can do the same thing by taxing guns, as his former chief of staff, Rahm Emanuel, wants to do for gun sales in Chicago and Illinois.
And
you can do all of those things, or you can eliminate gun dealers. And he's been harassing gun dealers and reduced the number of them since he's been president. Think about this. When the Supreme Court issued the Heller decision, which guarantees the right to individually and privately own firearms, and said that in the District of Columbia, because the original decision was about the district, that you have a right to defend yourself by keeping a firearm in your home. The District of Columbia government said, okay, we recognize that, but you're going to have to buy it here in the district. Problem was, there were no gun dealers that would sell to the general public in the district. Now, without the gun dealer, that right became an academic rather than a real right. There are all kinds of things. If you ban the manufacture of firearms, then what good is the right if you can't get them? In other words, there are more than a dozen ways, by bypassing the legislature, through regulatory harassment, through licensing, through executive orders, through a UN treaty, that the President of the United States, if he's hostile to the Second Amendment and has a government that follows his orders, can get at the Second Amendment. And this is a guy who, if he can, will do just that.
David Keene, President of the NRA, thanks for being on it. Thanks for all of your hard work in this election season.
And thank you.
You bet. The NRA has done an awful lot and trying to get the word out, because the Second Amendment is up for grabs. If this guy gets on again, mark my words, you better be at the gun store first thing on Wednesday if you want to be able to get one, because they're going to fly off the shelves. Ammunition. And as he continues his second term with more latitude, you will find things harder and harder to get. If you're smart, you might want to do it this week.